Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we are joined by competitive skateboarder Taylor Silverman. Taylor, welcome to The Right View. Obviously, you gained notoriety as a skateboarder. That's something I want to talk about. I assume you've done for most of your life, but you kind of got a little more famous or well-known as of late, very recently, because you decided you'd had enough with the nonsense and you were like, that's it. I've got to speak out on something that is so blatantly wrong. Please tell us your story, if you would.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate getting to come on here and speak with you. But yeah, I guess it's famous or infamous depending on who you ask.
Yeah.
I started skateboarding when I was 16, so a little bit later than most skateboarders. But within a few years, I started going to different events and competing, going to different states to compete in events that were specifically for female skateboarders. And it was back in, I think, 2018 that I first went to an event where a male skateboarder entered a women's division. And then I saw it happen again in 2020. So first time in California, second time in Chicago. And I saw this creeping into skateboarding, not just in competitive events, but also anytime there were like meetups or groups that were supposed to be for women, they very quickly got taken over and became like LGBT plus focused, whatever the acronym is now. And at first I thought, like, the whole thing with the contest, everybody must recognize how ridiculous this is, and there's no way it's going to keep happening. People will eventually not allow it anymore. And I thought it's the contest organizers' responsibility to take a step to ending this and to just set the rules and say, we're not going to do it this way. But in 2021, I competed in another contest. This time it was involving like thousands of dollars of prize money with Red Bull. And I had participated in a qualifier in my home state at the time of Michigan. And then I was invited out to Lincoln, Nebraska to compete in the finals. And the day of the finals, I was made aware that there was a male skateboarder who would be competing with the women. And not only that, but he had already been traveling state to state, competing in these qualifiers and taking first place, winning $500 at every stop. And I was shocked, like, despite having seen this before, because this time it wasn't just like people showed up and they didn't really have time to do anything about it. We were all invited. We had all traveled from across the country to be there, and they were well aware who was going to be there. And there was also money on the line, which changed things a little bit because, you know, you take it a little more seriously when it's something that can financially impact you.
Yeah.
But basically, I didn't know what to do, and I was really uncomfortable, called my family, explained what was going on, and everyone agreed with me what was happening was wrong, but kind of warned me that speaking out could lead to negative consequences for me, and it might be best to just compete for second place that day and take the money that I can win and just go home and deal with it later. And that's what I did, because I came there to skateboard, not to become a political activist. And I ended up placing first amongst the women. But unfortunately, I was given second place because the male skateboarder received first place prize.
Wow.
And he also took $5,000 of the prize money within that contest circuit that was supposed to be for the female skaters. So fast forward, I get home and I started talking to other skaters about it. I realized that I really wasn't alone in feeling like this was unfair and ridiculous and shouldn't continue. Like, everybody I talked to agreed and was shocked when I told them that this had happened. So finally, I decided I want to handle this as professionally as possible. So I reached out to Red Bull privately, to the contest organizers who I had been in contact with throughout the whole scheduling me to get out there. And I basically told them, I understand this is a difficult position for you guys to be in too, but I don't think you're handling it correctly. This is exactly how myself and the other female competitors were impacted. and this is how it impacted the prize money. And I'd really like to schedule a time for us to talk about a better way to handle this moving forward. But they
yeah, I was going to say, well, what was their reaction?
They completely ignored me. No response.
Nothing. Zero response.
Yeah.
Wow. And then I imagine that kind of irritated you. So you were like, well, this isn't over. This isn't acceptable. This isn't okay.
Mm-hmm. And yeah. I felt like I had to do something. It felt like a moral obligation to do something, especially being in a position where I had seen this happening in a lot of sports. And I knew, as somebody who had been displaced from first place and who had lost out on prize money, that people needed to know that this was happening at this level also, and not just, I mean, it impacts so many different things. Women are being displaced in college and high school, in like amateur sports and professional sports. People are having their records broken by men for women's records, and it impacts women financially. But no one really knew that this was so common in skateboarding. And it is common. Like, every time that I participated in a contest where this happened, it was a different man. Wow. And I had seen this happening in different states and in different countries. In Canada, it was really common. You'd see it in probably more women's contests than not. And I was able to count like a dozen different men who were doing this. And these were men who were getting paid to do this and being celebrated for it. And I thought, if Red Bull is ignoring me, how many other people have tried to speak up and actually successfully been silenced?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's part of the goal. They're like, well, if I just ignore these people who are kind of a couple of people complaining, we're not going to have to upset the alphabet community, whatever they call themselves, the LGBTQIA++++ community. And that's always, I think, where these companies, these corporations miss the mark, because no one cares about any of that stuff. This wasn't about any of that. Obviously, for you, this is about fairness. Mm-hmm. And I really applaud you, Taylor, for speaking up, because I know it is so difficult. I know that the easy way out would be to just kind of sit back and be like, well, this sucks, but this is kind of what it is now. And who am I? I'm one person, and how will I make a difference? And knowing that you would have people come out and attack you and say, oh, you're transphobic, or you're this or that, which obviously I don't think anyone believes when they actually say these things. This is just a way to attack someone like you. But it is shocking that you didn't get anything back from Red Bull. The truth is, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why these things are not fair. Even my small children, who are 4 and 6 years old, know that there is a difference between men and women, and understand that men are better at some things than women are. And it's because of their body makeup. It's because they are physically different than women. The fact that you had all of these other women who you had competed with, or who were competing as well alongside you, upset, what was their reaction when you actually decided to speak out and say something? I'm sure they were probably grateful to have someone giving them a voice.
I think it was a bit mixed. So before I spoke up, one of the things that actually motivated me to do it was that I had mutual friends, because a lot of these women, they're girls from different states. They're girls I didn't really know, and that I had only met at this contest, or maybe seen at one other before. But I had like a mutual friend of one of the girls reach out to me, who was friends with both myself and her, and say that she had been talking about it, that we needed to create better rules and that this was ridiculous. And this person, she was like in her late teen years. And I thought, well, like I'm in my late 20s. Like, I need to be the one to step up here. These younger girls shouldn't have to advocate for themselves. But there were also girls who were in the contest who came after me afterwards. And
really?
Yeah, that they were in the same group of people saying, oh, well, you're transphobic, you just suck. There were girls even saying, girls who didn't place in this contest at all, telling me, well, you're a bad skateboarder. I'm like, well, what does that say about you and all the other girls who placed behind me and didn't have runs where they landed every trick and got high scores? And, skateboarding, it can go anyway. There's contests that I've done really well at. There's ones I've done really poorly at. That's part of being an athlete. But I thought it was a really silly conclusion to jump to as a attack to try to shut me up is, well, you're just bad at this. It's like, That's not what my performance at the contest says.
Right.
Especially like when we're comparing it to yours.
Yeah. Exactly. Like maybe look in the mirror before you hurl an insult like that across the bow at somebody. What's interesting to me though, Taylor, is almost immediately, I think after you kind of went public with this information and said, hey, this isn't fair and no one is taking this seriously and this is not right to women in this sport, you kind of got labeled as right wing, as some sort of a right wing activist of some variety. It's sort of shocking to me today in 2023 that to speak up about something that is so obvious and completely based on fairness gets you labeled in a certain political group. Were you surprised by that?
At first, yes, but as time went on and I started to realize what was happening, not as much. Like, to me, when I first had this happen to me and when I first spoke up about it, I saw it as a very nonpartisan issue. I didn't see it as a political issue at all. And I didn't realize that this was actually something that was being pushed in politics. And like the Biden administration's trying to change Title IX, and this is going to impact school sports and all of this stuff. I just thought, well, this is like a common sense issue. And also having spoken with a lot of people before I spoke out publicly, especially like a lot of skateboarders in the skateboarding community in Michigan, where I was living at the time, everybody agreed with me. And these are people from all different walks of life, from all different viewpoints on politics. So it was news to me when I spoke up that that was like a right-wing thing. But I had noticed this happening with other issues where the left had like lost their mind entirely. Whether it be like 2020 and like you're evil if you don't agree with this particular stance, and there was no conversation happening. And I had no idea at first that women having a fair place in sports was a political issue. And I don't believe that everybody who is on the left actually agrees with that either. And I don't think statistics and polls show that they do. But it seems to not be a deal breaker for them when voting for their daughters to have a fair place in sports and a safe place in spaces that should be single sex. And that's extremely disappointing. But I've just watched this unfold, and it seems like the left has gotten a little bit crazy. And I've always been, before all this, I didn't consider myself that much of a political person. I wasn't paying that much attention. I didn't realize how much these issues impacted me and would impact my family one day and impact my community. But as soon as all this happened, I started paying a lot more attention. And I've always had more traditional views. So I think I kind of fall on that side anyway. But it was just crazy seeing how like the mainstream stuff on the left seems like extremism to me. And then they're saying the same thing about the right, but the right is saying, well, men can't be women, and women, the word woman should be defined, and we shouldn't have men in a women's bathroom. And, you should have the right to free speech without censorship. Like, these seem like common sense issues. And it's really sad to see how it's shifted, because it wasn't like this 10 years ago.
Yeah, no, and it's interesting. It's interesting that you really didn't consider yourself to be political in any respect prior to this situation happening. And I think you're right. I think there are so many people who look at these kind of situations. And honestly, Taylor, we don't seek them out. It's not like you have to comb through every newspaper in the world and say, aha, here's one situation where we can blow it up and put a spotlight on it. These things are happening constantly. They're happening in sports all across this country. They're happening all the way, down to like the high school, middle school level sports teams in schools across this country. They're happening up into the professional level sports. They do have consequences because it does displace women from potentially getting money if they are professionals, from potentially getting scholarships. And it can change the trajectory of a woman's entire future based on this kind of lunacy. And I think there are so many people out there who get why this is wrong, but why are they afraid to speak up? I feel like we have given a green light to people to just do crazy things because people really do have this inherent fear of speaking up and speaking out. I mean, what would you say to somebody out there who may feel the same way that you have, right? Maybe had a situation like this where they know it wasn't fair. They lost an opportunity. They should have been first or second place, and instead they had a man or two men sometimes in front of them. Would you encourage them to speak up, or what would you say to them? Because I think a lot of people are just so terrified to do it.
I would absolutely encourage them to speak up. And I want people to know that I understand that fear. It took me months to speak out publicly. And when I did it, I did not expect to get a bunch of support. I did not expect this to be covered by a bunch of media. I didn't expect to get job offers because of this. At this point, I was so fed up with it. I felt like, what do I have to lose? Like, I need to tell the truth. I need to get that weight off of my chest. And what came from it is a bunch of doors for much better opportunities came to me. And I've been able to use my voice on a bigger platform to talk about these stories because it is really common. You're right. And a lot of people don't realize how common it is. And they think, well, this is like a non-issue, you know, this happened one time and people made a big deal out of it. But it's happening in pretty much any sport you can think of on every level. And it's even now happening to children, which is concerning in multiple ways. One, that girls are being brought up feeling like they can't receive the like a win that they deserve. They can't accomplish things and get what they've earned. And also, children are being encouraged to identify as trans. Like the whole sports issue to me is a symptom of a much bigger issue here. But I could talk about that all day. I can get into that more in a second. But for people who are scared to speak up, I understand the fear. It feels like your life is going to be over. And we've all seen stories of people having these online attacks where people go after their families, their jobs, people get doxxed. And when I had my breaking point and finally spoke up, I came to the realization that a lot of this was this illusion that had been pushed on me to keep me silent. And my life has actually gotten even better now that I've spoken up. And I feel a lot better and I can sleep better at night knowing that I did speak up and that I don't have to carry that weight of walking around having people see me and think, well, she must be okay with it because she didn't say anything. And I don't have to carry that weight of feeling like if this happened to a daughter, if I have a daughter one day, that I would have to tell her I didn't do anything when it happened to me and she needs to just deal with it. And telling the truth just feels better. And you will receive a lot more support than you expect. And, you know, that they want you to stay silent. And it is this illusion of fear that they push onto you that has let this get to the point that it's gotten to. And it is time for us to say enough.
Yeah.
It's the only way it's going to change.
Well, it's true. I think you have to have a critical mass of people who come out and finally say enough. We're not going to play this game anymore because it really feels like a silly, ridiculous game, but the consequences are real. And, you know, I think back to learning when I was growing up, when I was in school, about women's suffrage and about the fight for equality that women have had to endure for centuries all across the world, but especially here in the United States of America. And to think how far we have come as a gender, to think what we've been able to accomplish, where I have felt like most of my life, I never thought about the fact that I was a woman. I don't ever feel like I was judged differently than a man when it came to getting a job or applying for schools or whatever it was. I was just seen as an individual and I was judged based on my merit, on my talent, on my skill, whatever it might be for that position or for the school. And that's always been the way that I have operated. And now it feels like we have regressed so much in such a short period of time. that I think we better start speaking up about this. There's a reason that I try to highlight this, that I want to talk about it, because I have a daughter who is into all kinds of sports. She's 4 years old. She wants nothing more than to compete in triathlons alongside me, because she's seen me do it her whole life. She wants to do all the same things that I do. And I want, when she becomes ready to do these sort of things, I want her to have the equal fair opportunity that she deserves. And every girl should have that opportunity. But I got to tell you, Taylor, it feels like it's getting worse instead of getting better. It feels like we're on this like crazy path at this warp speed towards kind of destruction. And I don't know, how do you feel? Do you feel like we're turning a corner, or do you feel like people need to start speaking out more in order for us to get there? Because for me, I don't know. I feel like we better start getting loud about these things.
Yeah, people need to use their voice. And I wonder if it is going to be the sort of thing that almost has to get worse before it gets better, so people really realize how serious this is and the consequences of it. And what I've noticed for a lot of people is it's something that they don't really care about until it impacts them. And like, this is something I recognize was wrong all along. I didn't realize that I could be somebody to have a voice in this. I thought, well, it's not really my responsibility to speak up about this. I didn't organize this contest. But if you don't say something, who will? Like, your voice matters just as much as anyone else's. And you're right. Like, people fought so hard for women to enjoy the luxuries and the rights that we have today. And it is a lot harder to fight to get those back than it is to let it all go. Mm-hmm. And if we really keep going in this direction, it's going to be a very long, difficult battle to get back to normalcy that you and I grew up with. Like, when I was a kid in school, I played sports, like a bunch of different sports before I ever skateboarded. I didn't start skateboarding until I switched to homeschool, and I wouldn't be playing school sports anymore. But it just never occurred to me that this could happen. I never had to stress about it. And I can't imagine if I would have gone to try out for a school sports team and not made the team, or been put in a situation where I have to share a locker room with a boy. Like, these are things that it mostly, out of all of it, it all bothers me. It's all terrible. But the group I'm worried about the most is young girls who are never going to know what it's like to have that normal thing, playing sports and being treated with respect and being able to have integrity in the thing that you love to do and are passionate about. And they're not going to have any set guideline of what normal is and what it is to be treated fairly. They're going to think that this is just how women are treated. And that is so disturbing to me. And I don't want to have to raise children in a society like that. But people need to speak up.
They do. And I feel like there's this group of girls, maybe between the ages of like 8 or 9 and like 15 right now, who are really in the crux of this. Like, these are the ones who are going to be really impacted if we don't get things turned back around very quickly. My daughter at 4, I feel like there's still a chance that maybe we reverse course quickly enough that she's not ultimately impacted by it, and kids of her generation are not. But if we just let this go, if we just say the easy thing and the safe thing so that no one calls us names, is to just kind of sit back and not talk about it and just let it happen. Absolutely not. This is something that I feel very strongly about. I know you feel very strongly about. I love that you have taken a stance on this, and I love that you have such a powerful voice. I think you're inspiring a lot of people to do the same thing you did, and I hope they do. You've been very busy. Like you said, you've gotten several opportunities, job offers since all of this kind of transpired. What are you doing? How can people keep up with you? Are you still skateboarding? What's going on with you?
Yeah, I still skateboard. I'll always be skateboarding. But I work out at Timcast now. I came out here like a few weeks after all this happened. I was invited out as a guest, and then I ended up being asked to stay. So
love it. They know a good thing when they see it, Timcast.
Yeah.
Love that.
And we're actually, I can't talk too much about it, but we're kind of working on a new project right now. Oh. So hopefully I'll be able to announce a little bit more about it in the near future. But to keep up with that and to see what it is when I finally do get to talk about it, you can follow me on Twitter at TM Silverman. And I have an Instagram too. I don't post on it as much, but that one is at Taylor May Silverman. And then I occasionally appear on the show Cast Castle on timcast.com. And we like to make fun of woke issues and spoof different stuff on there. It's fun. If you need to like take a break from the seriousness of it all and just laugh about it, it's a good show to watch.
Yeah, sometimes we have to laugh, Taylor, so that we don't cry because it's so insane, so much of the stuff going on. I just want to congratulate you again for having the guts to come forward and speak up and really represent yourself and your entire sport, I think, very well. You've opened a lot of people's eyes, and we got to keep talking about it. We can't just let this kind of go and just, fade off into the sunset on this one. Absolutely not. I am not doing it. I know you're not doing it. We have a whole group of people out there in this country who want to fight for our young girls and their rights and the future of this country. So thank you for doing everything you do. We certainly will keep up with everything you've got going on, everything happening over at Timcast. Absolutely love it. What a great crew you guys have there. And so, Taylor, thank you for joining us. Thanks for sharing your story here on The Right View. To everybody at home, as always, thank you for joining as well. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it. So I'm like a lot of people. I love to wear an Apple Watch, but I hate how it looks. And I scoured the internet to search for the best looking Apple Watch cases I could find, and I found it. goldandcherry.com. They have absolutely beautiful watches, as you can see here. Everything is waterproof. Everything looks good with different outfits. You can get sporty, you can get fancy, but they are great quality, made out of Delaware in the United States of America. And they have been kind enough to give me a promo code that I can share with you if you want to get your hands on one of these as well. It's Lara T, L-A-R-A-T is the promo code to get yourself a discount at goldandcherry.com. And not only do they make Apple Watch cases, they also make great products for iPads and iPhones, keyboards, your desktop, everything you could possibly need. Goldandcherry.com. Use promo code LaraT so you can get yourself one of these today too. At The Right View, we're very proud of the fact that we are independent. We get to say everything that we think and everything that we feel. We have no woke companies guiding us or telling us what we can and cannot say. We are always going to shoot you straight and give you the facts as we know them. And that's why it's important to support independent outlets like The Right View. My name is Lara Trump, and I think Mike Lindell is a patriot. He is someone who loves this country, is willing to fight for this country. I love MyPillow because not only are MyPillows made in the USA by American workers, but they're great products, and they're so great that not only do I use them in my own bed at night, my children actually requested. My daughter the other day went to the closet and pulled out a MyPillow and said, "This is the pillow that I want to sleep with." And I gotta tell you, she loves it and will have nothing to do with any other pillow. So it's a big hit around our house. My dogs also happen to sleep on MyPillow dog beds. So all around the Trump household, we're big fans. If you go to mypillow.com today and use promo code TRUMP, again, promo code TRUMP, you will not only save money, but you will help us continue this show and other shows like it and help us continue the fight for the future of America. Inflation has impacted all of our lives. I don't think anyone can go to the gas pump or the grocery store without noticing that it is a major factor. And unfortunately, it's not going anywhere. It doesn't seem like it's going down in the way that we would like it to. And one way to protect your money is by investing in precious metals, gold and silver. That's always been a great way to make sure that you keep your money and you keep it safe. When you go to bh-pm.com, use promo code TRUMP. That way, if you decide you want to invest in gold and silver, you'll save yourself a little bit of money. We live in a time that's very interesting. A lot of us out there feel like a lot of our rights are slipping away. And if you're like I am and you want to have the right to choose whether or not to have a vaccine, how to live your life freely, and you're looking for a great doctor, I've heard amazing things about Dr. Sherwood. He's somebody who you should really check out and check into, and it'll help support this program and keep us going. So go to sherwood.tv and use promo code TRUMP. Again, sherwood.tv and use promo code TRUMP. You can save yourself some money and help us keep our program going.